Welcome to Creepy Joe's Horror Show! With special guest, Slip Rick the Skeleton.
It's not my fault the babes like me, man.
Also, Flo!
Perverts.
And don't forget about your legendary loser host himself, Creepy Joe!
Welcome to Creepy Joe's Horror Show. Tonight we have Re-Animator from 1985.
Re-Animator 1985 is about a young scientist who discovers how to bring dead bodies back to life, and he experiments on several subjects.
So this movie, Re-Animator 1985, is definitely one of the better ones that it's one that I really enjoy, and on Tubi. I've seen it more than once, but it's one of those that I have to put out there because, you know, it's one of my top ones on Tubi, so and it's available for free. So if I leave it out, I'd be like, man, why didn't I cover that? But most of you that are into horror, you've probably already seen this. This is a classic. Like, everybody loves this movie. Directed by Gordon Stewart and written by, the story is loosely follows the movie loosely follows the story by H.P. Lovecraft. It's if you read the story by H.P. Lovecraft, there's a lot of differences. But anyway, starring Jeffrey Combs as Herbert West, who's basically the mad scientist, and then you have Bruce Abbott as Dan Kane. He's studying to be a doctor, and then you have Barbara Crampton playing Megan, who's the Dean's daughter, but we'll get to that. So then you have David Gale, who's Dr. Carl Hill, and Robert Sampson playing Dean Halsey, whatever.
Obsessive desire. Perhaps it...
And anyway, the movie starts out where Herbert West, aka Jeffrey Combs, is with Dr. Gruber, and Dr. Gruber and him somehow, this is what I take from it anyway, I didn't study too much into this, and I've only seen it a few times, but he obviously, Dr. Gruber was, he was pumped with he must have died and was brought back with the serum. And I don't know, I'm guessing that's what happened because he was all out of control and everything at the beginning, and then he dies. And they almost, blame Herbert West, but he ends up going on to another school, and that's where he meets Dan Kane, and they become roommates.
I'm afraid the place is still kind of a mess, Mr. West.
Oh, Herbert.
And he also meets Dr. Carl Hill, who he despises because he believes he copied off of Dr. Gruber's work. And
You should have stolen more of Gruber's ideas than at least you'd have ideas. Mr. West!
he's just a kind of like a fraud. He's trying to find the way to bring people back the same way they figured it out. And anyway, Dan is basically the main character with Herbert West, but more so Dan and Megan, like as a couple.
I love you.
And Megan she's waiting for him to graduate and become a doctor to get married, and they're in love, but she happens to be the dean's daughter, and Dean, he's like the main guy of the school, and they don't know, because it'd be conflict of interest to for him to approve him as a doctor if people found out that he was sleeping with his daughter. So they're keeping it a secret, and ultimately it starts kicking in once the cat they become they kind of are weirded out by well, Megan's really weirded out by Herbert West, but you know, Dan lets him stay there anyway, and he has like a laboratory in the basement. And that's when the cat dies.
What happened?
And the cat is brought back to life with the serum.
Don't expect it to tango. It has a broken back.
And Dan witnesses that, you know, Herbert is able to bring animals back to life from the dead. Anyway, that didn't make any sense. He brought the cat back to life, and it had like a busted back. He brought him back twice, but so and also Megan walks in and sees it, and then her dad. He's a good guy. Dan's a good guy, so he goes to talk to her father.
Herbert West has affected reanimation in dead animal tissue.
And explains to him, like, we found a way, you know, I saw it with my own eyes, we can bring back the cells or whatever, the organism, we can bring people back to life. And he's like, that's insane. He basically is telling him, like, you know, he's going to be done at that school, you know, like, and Herbert West, he does expel him completely and tells Dan, like, you know, not to even talk about it, basically. It's
Tomorrow morning, you will submit to me a written apology for this entire affair.
And then the main doctor at the school, not the dean, but the doctor, Carl Hill, who is supposedly the teacher of, you know, Herbert and Dan, he really wants to find out for himself. He wants to get his hands on the serum. So it all leads to this. Dan decides to help Herbert, and they want to try it out on a dead cadaver. After no one believes them or wants anything to do with it, they try it on a dead cadaver in the morgue of the hospital. And that it comes to life, obviously, and attacks them. They're very violent when they come back. And then it tries to murder, or it murders, the dean walks in and it murders him. So they have to, you know, basically bring him back to life, and he's just like, they lock him up in the hospital because he's crazy. When they come back to life, they're violent, they can't talk, they're basically like very violent zombie. So the dad can't rat on him and say what happened because he's like out of it, he's a zombie. But the doctor knows, he lobotomizes the dean so that he can't ever, you know, speak a word about it or anything, like, because he wants to get the serum for himself. So ultimately, he goes in and tries to steal it from Herbert West, and Herbert ends up killing him and cutting his head off with a shovel. And then brings his body and his head back to life. Then the animated body attacks Herbert and knocks him out. And it gets real crazy. I don't really want to go scene by scene, but ultimately, at the end, the mad doctor that has his head severed, his animated body takes control of everything. They shoot up all the other dead bodies in the morgue. And then they attack Dan and Megan and Herbert. And Herbert ends up dying. I think they get him. I don't know if they don't really show if he's dead or not, which I don't know because I didn't see the sequels to this. I don't think he's really dead, but they end up getting him, and then they get Megan inside of the elevator. And Dan, you know, is all butthurt because he's in love with her. They're in love. And so he ends up shooting her up with a serum after they lose her in the hospital bit. And so obviously that's how the movie ends. So this movie's definitely a classic. It's definitely one of the better ones on there, like I said, and I thoroughly enjoy it. This movie gets a solid 4 out of 5. The special effects and everything are real, you know, great. You know, they're cheesy and they're awesome. So that's what I look for. This is a horror comedy as well. So it does have a comedic aspect, but it's not stupid. It's not sexual, you know, boobies type bullshit. You know, it's actually funny, not because it looks like they're trying to be, if that makes sense. It's real comedy. It's not like, oh, I farted, and oh, a titty. This movie is great in every way. Has a great storyline, everything. So that's pretty much it on it. And every movie that I'm doing in this month of October, I don't even know what we're on now, like 24 or something, 25 maybe. I can't even remember the date, but because this is just like a continuance every day after day, and it's like never ending, man. This has been a lot to do this many so far, every night in a row. It's a lot of work outside of going to actual work and working on this the rest of the day. It's exhausting, but it's worth it, and I'm sticking to it. And then if this works out, you know, I'm going to throw one out once a week, or maybe more than that. I mean, it'll be easy to do every other day compared to this. So, yeah, check everything out. Everything that I review is free on Tubi, so check that out. And that's pretty much it. Stay creepy.